Thank you for inviting me and for the opportunity to be with this lovely group. I'm a clinical psychologist and focusing coordinator and somatic experiencing practitioner. So I combine a lot of that. I'm in private practice. I teach topics related to FOT, to focusing oriented therapy, and TAE, which I don't know if all of you are familiar with that second practice of gently thinking at the edge. Today, I will be using some of the steps or exercises or moves or whatever you prefer to call them from TAE, from thinking at the edge. So for some of you, I'm sure both the concept itself, diversity, will be familiar. I see some familiar faces here who I know have been in this kind of process with me before. I guess also your familiarity with your knowledge of Gentlin's philosophy might vary, but as you may know, the approach to any word or concept or whatever, everything really, is of everything being in constant change and process. So even if, let's say, at the explicit level of words and thoughts and formulations, even if everything I will be saying and suggesting that we do together will not be new, I really want to stress that we be attentive to the fact that everything is new in this moment. It will not be what it was last time you did something or thought something. And so also this word, this concept of diversity is of course changing and influenced by the whole situation and our personal circumstances and everything that's happening around us in the environment and in the world. So this will be an invitation to have a peek into what this might bring up for us in this moment. Just to say a few things again that might be familiar to most of you about diversity. Okay, and since this is an international group, English might not be your mother tongue, as it is also not mine, which is Norwegian, and then my second language is Hebrew, and then there's English, and another few bits and pieces. So I would like to suggest that you all take a moment to have that word in your language. The word for diversity, and for those of you whose mother tongue is English, then just stay with that word a little bit. And if you feel like writing it down in your language, or it might be one word in some languages, it might be maybe two words. And you might also sense the difference in felt sense, in the feel of the word in English and the feel of the word in another language. If you, like me, kind of move between several languages, you might want to write down a word in other languages that are close to you. And then, I'll be talking a little bit, but I really want for us to spend most of our time more in experiential space. So just to say very shortly that diversity is a basic guiding principle of the focusing world. For Jean Gendlin, it was very important to have this really at the center of of the focusing world and the International Focusing Institute. And I have to say that I have been for a long time, and I still am proud to be part of a community which holds this as a central principle, because not many organizations, communities maybe, but organizations less so, set this up as something so central. And to say that this presentation today is happening at a time when there are calls for a revision of the International Focusing Institute's diversity statement. So we're in the middle of something that is happening, and there's discussion around this. And the reason, just to say that shortly, for this is the need felt by some for a way to protect the quality of the practice of focusing. We'll get a little bit back to that. Maybe just to say something general, that there's something going on here between what we might call a value, a central value, and maybe some difficulties encountered in applying this value. And I have a twofold kind of wish or purpose for our meeting today. One is that I would like to share with you and for you to explore in an experiential way what diversity might mean for you. And the second purpose is to use this process as one example of a way in which we can explore all complex issues using the two practices of focusing and TAE, thinking at the edge. So that being said, I would like us to move into experiential space right away with the help of one basic move from TAE. And so we will do this in a short way because we don't have very much time together. What we would do in TAE would be first to look up in the dictionary the definition of the word. Our word today is diversity. We'll skip that. The dictionary will give us the public definition, the public use of the word. And we will move straight to that. And I will guide you a bit now into a more experiential exercise. And the question there would be, and I will come back to that and repeat it, would be, what would you want that word to mean? What would you want that word to mean? Okay, so let's move everything a little bit aside and to invite ourselves gradually to focusing space, experiential space. So take a minute to check if you are comfortable, what your body might tell you of its needs to maybe make some adjustment so that you will be more comfortable and feel supported by the chair or wherever you are sitting. And then I want to gradually invite you to invite a wider opening of your attention to include whatever you're sensing in your body, feelings, images, sense of kinds of energy, maybe rhythm, intensity, qualities of presence. And thoughts and words and associations. And especially, I would like to extend an invitation for you to maybe surprise yourself. To have everything you know already, and then maybe to connect to something more without being too worried about if it makes sense or if it's logical or if it's good or bad. And then let's invite our guest, the word diversity, and to invite it and to invite you yourself to really open up your curiosity and give yourself permission to ask, what do I want that word to mean right now in this situation where I am now? And I'll give you a few minutes just to stay with that and let that evolve. Diversity. If you find that your attention goes very far away and kind of feels disconnecting, you might sense into if there's something there that is related, even though you didn't realize, or to gently bring yourself back to your body here and to the word diversity. What do I want that word to mean now? And as we are coming to the close of this listening, attending, you might want to write down a word or 2 or 3 words or a short sentence that maybe captures something that came up and that in a way catches your interest. Maybe something that surprised you. Okay, so really, this is so much, again, part of what diversity, at least to me, is all about, taking in all these different and new words, sentences, experiences. Feels very rich. Yeah, I really would love to spend more time with that, but since our time is limited, we will move on. Yes, this feels a bit abrupt and harsh, what I'm going to go into now. And that, I guess that is also part of an instance of the whole thing. Okay, without much explanation, we will try to keep this experiential. I will do something that at least I sense right now will really be a kind of an interference with something very rich and inspiring, might be an interference that you're experiencing right now. And I would like you to think, first to do some thinking, to go back to your experience and the sentence that captured that, and to ask yourself, what might be the opposite of that? Or I will say that in a few different ways. What might be a contradiction to that. Maybe even using what might be an interference with that. What might be a difficulty with that? What might seem impossible to that? What might clash with that? And again, write down words or sentences as they come very shortly. You don't have to keep track of everything that comes to your mind, and then maybe pick something, one thing that it might be something that you again feel curious about. It might be something that comes up that feels the most difficult, the most remote, the most contradictory. And then we will do another process, again inspired by TAE, which is in TAE, there's a whole, I find, very rich way of working with what we might call paradoxes. Yeah, and again, I limit myself. I will not do much in way of explanation or thoughts. It's a huge topic, of course. And let's now relate to this really as an experiment, an open experiment that might be more or less successful, whatever that might be. Just to get kind of a taste of what we can do with things like this. And so again, I will guide you in an experiential exercise, going back into experiential space, or curiosity, open curiosity space, opening up as much as we can all our channels of experience, and then to give room for those words that came up now, the what we might call the opposite or the paradoxical or the interfering or the clashing, to stay with those words and to get a felt sense of that. And as much as we can, to stay in presence for those, that is a familiar term, even if it's something that we don't like or we have a negative reaction to turn with the curiosity also toward that, to ask, what do I sense here? What do I sense? What comes up when I am with that, with those words, with that thought? And then, and this is kind of a challenge, we're moving into more complexity. So be patient with yourselves. Whatever happens, whatever comes to your attention is good. The invitation now is to open up to the space where you hold those two felt senses together at the same time, in the same space, the felt sense of the word diversity and that second felt sense. What happens? How is it for you when you invite yourself to hold both, or to hold all of that? And again, very importantly, to be curious also if you feel some sense of what we might call difficulty or distancing or aversion or not impossible or too difficult. Everything is invited. For example, if you are with this doesn't work for me, what are the qualities, the experienced qualities right now of this doesn't work for me, or whatever it is. What are you sensing in your body right now? Are there any emotions, qualities, rhythm, energy, and thoughts, images, memories? And again, both diversity and these other things. Maybe finding yourself, distancing yourself, and then gently coming back.
People will be very eager to share what came up for them if that's what our next experience is.
Yes, that's really what I would like, just to open up and invite you to share. And we'll see where that process will take us. So please.
My question is about that holding both. And I felt kind of, I guess, a little frozen. And I think the best thing I would know what to do with that is to just relax into that. But I don't know, maybe you have any other suggestions. From my own experience, I can be in one or the other. And that's sort of a familiar back and forth for me in a lot of areas of my life.
I was struck by your saying relaxing into it.
Exactly. Yes, I would be. That really opens up my curiosity that as you were aware of what you were describing as kind of feeling frozen, were you able to stay with that in some way, that experience?
Maybe I was too much going into my head thinking, what should I do now?
I really think this is what I find again and again, right? That the next step is really implied in the, let's call it, the difficulty that you're describing, because then somehow don't like the word suggestion right now, but I don't have another word. What I would suggest is to then try to go back into your body, really to turn your interest towards that experience of, let's say, feeling frozen. You know, that's where it's at. That's the thing. You know, this is, you know, yeah, maybe this can give me an opportunity to say something about this practice called thinking at the edge. That is what we mean by edge. You know, let's see if it can be helpful to relate to that experience of frozenness as this is the edge. I don't know, I can't go further. This stops my process. Nothing comes from there. And then very often, so many of us, what we do, we go into our heads because it's not a comfortable place to be. And the invitation then is to stay with stay at the edge. That's the only place where change can come, where real change can come. There are no shortcuts. The edge where we can't move forward. Well, maybe I should be a little more soft here. It's the main place, or it's an important place where change can come. Where what then comes cannot be more of the same, which thinking very often tends to be. I would be very careful with already existing words. Let's open up to whatever there might be. Maybe it will be variety. Maybe it will be something else. Maybe it will be something new. Totally.
I love that idea of being cautious about already existing words. Something just came alive in me when you said that.
Yeah, and when you say change comes by staying at the edge, it's also about being able to stay with the discomfort.
Because we human beings usually, or some of us, don't like very much not to know and to feel stuck and nothing happening, nothing moving, or I don't understand, or helplessness, or anything, all of that. So that's really the invitation, and we do need, most of us, a lot of support to be able to, as something that came up, I just got a reminder from a TAE process I did on TAE. So I would say this standing at the edge and standing the edge. There's also this move that Gendlin calls finding the positive implying. And again, I'm sure many of you know about this. What is the positive implying? What is the positive intention in even something we relate to as negative, or definitely as what is the positive implying of having an organizing principle? That is also very important.
One of the things that came to me is the films I've been seeing about the need for biodiversity and picturing the human diversity and the biodiversity, and all those things, all the creatures belong together, and the mosquitoes belong and the sharks belong, and we're all belonging together in this diversity.
That kind of fits with what Jim was saying, and beginning with commonality. I liked that. If we could all just begin with commonality, there's so much core that we're all the same.
But the edge for me is, how do I find commonality with people who would promote genocide, for instance, or promote suffering of any kind and really mean it, and be seemingly unteachable or unreachable? So how do I include them? I'm stuck there.
You have to find your inner unreachableness. You have something in common with unreachable people if you can feel your inner unreachableness.
The focusing can really help us there, like holding those opposites and relaxing into it, and relaxing into the large question of how do I find commonality with unreachableness.
For me, what you said is kind of a reminder why I find it so important to invite and to attend to, let's in short now call it opposite. We can use many other words, because it's very easy for some of us to stay with beautiful ideas. But I feel that we need to challenge ourselves and get into also the sharp edges and the things that are not so pleasant and that we don't like so much. So yeah, what you said was a reminder, and of course then you could relate to that as the new edge. There's something here that I feel I can't, that blocks my movement, that I don't like, I don't know what the solution is. Okay, here's an edge. Maybe an even very, very challenging edge. So how about sensing into that without knowing in advance where it will take us?
I'm just reminded of the beauty in being with whatever becomes right there. I remember a focusing session that Lynn was doing with my wife, and one of her cats just jumped up, and that just became part of the session. And I was like, wow, that's like, my mind was blown, and just like if the frozen thing and I go to my thinking comes, like that's the thing that I can attend to, that is part of it. And if the if this kind of like judgment, like, well, I can't include both, like the other one's terrible. It's like, that's the thing that's like I can be with. I'm just it feels so elegant and beautiful, and just love witnessing that here.
I was remembering Anne Weiser Cornell saying to us that there is no stuckness, because where you find that, you be with it, and just by being with it, it opens, it moves, and you go on until you get to the next place that you feel stuck. Mm-hmm. So she was like, no stuckness. Don't use that word to confine yourself.
And again, it's about how you use words, and then how that, of course, directs your thinking. Don't use that word identifying with stuckness. And it's a very different thing to say, I have a sense of stuckness right now, and I direct my curiosity towards that sense of stuckness. And then, of course, it's not stuckness. It cannot be.
Right.
Which reminds me of another quote from Gendlin, which has that in it and takes it even further. He says, there is no is.
Yes.
There is only is and.
Yes, I love that.
There are no fixed categories. There is only, the word we use, and then the continuation of the process.
The idea that every living thing, or every part of wherever I am has an next implying, felt so freeing. So when I feel myself now in the stuckness or whatever, having a knowing that has an implying has me not feel like identifying, I guess, as you maybe said, Dan, in like it confined by the stuckness, but tuning into how it's like how something has implied the stuckness, and the stuckness itself has an implying, has me feel in flow.
Exactly. I think you put it beautifully. That is really, that is so much, I would say, the importance of Gendlin's philosophy and the idea of implying, because the way you describe it is not only, you weren't only talking about an idea and some words and something you've read in a philosophy book, but you were saying in what way that changes the way you live and relate to yourself and your life. And that's the importance, that's the impact of this philosophy.
What I really respected too is that he opened his work to keep unfolding. And that's so beautiful. Not many creators are willing to let go completely and trust that actually it's going to keep growing, keep implying, and that's it. That's the process of it.
That's a beautiful statement to close our meeting. Okay, everybody, have a lovely week.